There's the proof.
Do we have a members sign-in sheet?
Thank you very much. So the second order is to look at the minutes from last year. So there have been paper copies circulated. It's a two-sided piece. People online, I am going to link you to AGM. So you've already got a link to the supporting documents in the email that was sent to invite people to this. If everyone's got that on the call, I won't keep sharing desktops I shouldn't show you, and let you access it that way, if that's okay. If that's a problem, anyone raise your hand on the call. Someone's Halloween party leftover screen name, perhaps. Should we admit to Screaming Sinister Stuart? I think we should. That will liven up proceedings. Thank you very much. I'm just going to look at the chat. I can't see the chat. That's great. So everyone's had a chance to view the minutes.
Can I raise one thing?
Yes, please.
Item 2 on the minutes, minutes of previous AGM held on item November 2021. Did we have a busy few days, or should that be 2022?
Yes, that is a fair comment. And
Don't worry, I'm not normally this good.
Perhaps I should preempt your next one, Graham, on item 7, the election of officers for 2020. That would be going back in time. So perhaps that should be 2022. Thank you for those comments. Any more comments on the minutes? There were no matters arising from minutes. Shall we move to approve the minutes from last time round? Okay. I think we need someone to propose that.
I'll propose.
Thank you, Ian, proposing. I think we need someone to second it as well. Stephen Wells, thank you. Those in favour of passing the minutes? Thank you. And those against? Abstentions? So everyone, thank you very much. It's time for Chair's report. I'm hesitating because it's on a document on my computer that is being displayed on this screen. We don't need a reminder of the agenda while we're going through my report. So thank you everyone for coming here this evening. This is something of a combined Chair's report and campaigns report, because since the elections in May, I have been standing in as the campaign lead while Julie has been very busy with council work. Given away some of what's in my report by saying that. So since our last AGM, the national and local landscape look very, very different. I'll start with the national picture, but I'll keep this brief. We've brought in 2 new Liberal Democrat MPs in by-elections in North Shropshire, in Tiverton and Honiton. So congratulations to Helen Morgan, Richard Ford And thank you to everyone who supported those campaigns as donors or volunteers. That's 3 Liberal Democrat gains in this Parliament, all from Conservative incumbents. This is excellent news, and I personally enjoyed going to North Shropshire, and who knows, maybe there'll be new by-elections on the horizon for us to participate in. Despite these successes, this hasn't been enough to rein in the chaos that's been brought about by Conservative government. A year ago, I wrote that sewage in our rivers and seas and sleaze in our Parliament was on people's minds. And I'd say that the situation has only degraded. Maybe we hope for better over the past year. We've seen deeply uninspiring Conservative leadership election, where the big questions about energy, cost of living, monetary policy, and how to shore up our struggling services were either left unasked by the media or unanswered when they did get some airtime. And then the lack of scrutiny of the Truss Kwarteng plan, no doubt helped by the spirit of the 2016 attitude that we've had enough of experts, led to the UKIPs and their eventual downfall. And I know that the length of the Truss and Kwarteng administration is going to be a future quiz question from John Loosemore. That is a certainty, maybe next month, or later this month, I should say. And I look forward to that. But Sunak appears to have brought some stability, but there are unhappy former Conservative voters abound. You can see that in the most recent polls. Let's look closer to home. The Liberal Democrats are back on the map in Bromley for the first time since 2014. And this is thanks to the generosity of well over 150 volunteers and donors, a huge proportion of our membership here in Bromley. And we have a group of 5 councillors from Beckenham Town and Copers Cope and Bromley Town. One seat was won by a mere 29 votes, demonstrating the importance of every single piece of campaigning and the value of the tight targeting that we had up to those elections. Wasn't just about winning. We had great results in Orpington constituency wards with runner-up candidates in Chelsfield, Orpington, Farnborough and Croft and Petswood and Knoll. No doubt some likely targets in 3.5 years' time. I need to say thank you to all the candidates across the borough and to our amazing agents of Ian and Michael, kept us on the straight and narrow and are a crucial part of delivering those successful campaigns. And everyone who was so generous with their time and money to support the campaigns. We had an unprecedented amount of door knocking, finding out what issues matter and showing that we care. We built our presence through street stalls. Stephen, you're famous for them. You've made the LDC Twitter feed many times for building our presence, and thank you. Getting our message out through digital efforts on websites, email, mailing lists, normal posts and ads on social media, telephoning our members and voters, writing, rewriting, proofreading, designing and posting our literature through so many doors. And our literature was top-notch, I would say, this campaign, and both in volume and quality. And thank you to everyone who managed and boosted our finances, developed our data and helped activate our membership base too. Thank you to all the members of committees that made decisions and challenged when needed. And I must say a special thank you to Julie Ireland for designing and delivering such strong campaigns across the borough. Our councillors are only 6 months in, almost to the day, but they are already making a difference to residents across the borough through casework, holding the council to account, and pushing portfolio holders to be more ambitious. I'll leave it to Julie, council group leader, in a minute to give a flavour of the work from what we're trying to call the Fab Five: Julie, Sam, Graham, Will and Chloe, and their work to make a better Bromley. Been very informal here. I've just referred to you as Chloe. Sorry, that's a typo and will be corrected right from this online.
Watching Ron in an election, that's it. Very clear.
So where do we go from here? We've got a bit of an unusual year ahead without any scheduled polling. which hasn't been the case for the last 3 years because the London election was delayed. But we do have the springboard of London elections in 2024. So it's time to build teams to support our councillors, campaign across the borough on issues that matter, and set ourselves up to get more elected next time round. And I'm sure I speak for all of the next executive members when I say that they want you on board. It's also a time for us to build our finances up after the successful 22 campaign. It wasn't cheap, was it, Ian? It cost some money, and our bank balance currently sits below the threshold that would allow us to fight a surprise by-election to the level that we want. There will be an appeal email going out shortly after this evening's meeting. Please read it, and if that's something that you'd like to support, we'd be very grateful. I have some very specific asks for volunteers, and these are roles that we have historically struggled to fill. So this is a great venue to bring them to the forefront, let's say. Can you help produce fortnightly digests of what our councillors and campaigners have been up to share with our growing email lists? So regular communication with our supporters. I'm not talking just about our members here, but supporters too. It's a very common occurrence for us to ask at the end of a pleasant interaction to say, would you like to join our newsletter? And a surprising number of people say yes to that. And regular communication with our supporters is really, really important. Can you help run social media ads? This is a niche, but people in their day jobs may have had some experience to this or in their hobbies. Reaching out to new supporters is vital, and that is one way we're able to do this. Could you join the campaign teams to support campaigns dear to you? So that could include researching issues, writing articles for web and print, and designing eye-catching and persuasive literature to go out into the world. And the fourth and final one, though this does seem far off, is could you be a community champion and a future local election candidate? Is that something that you'd like to do in 2026? Could you help get us from 5 to
20?
20? Okay, Stephen, you usually say something like 40 at this stage, but more, let's just say more. If any of those spark your interest, please speak to anyone who's on the executive as we find out later on. You can speak to me as well. So standing down as chair, I've done 3 years. I would like to give my personal thanks to everyone on the executive over the last 3 years who have worked so hard and brought about strong results in good humour. And that's something that I know will continue. Onwards and upwards for Bromley Liberal Democrats. Thank you. I'll gladly take any questions. If there are no questions, we can move on to the next element of the agenda, which is the Treasurer's report. Thank you, Ian. Is there anything you'd like to show on the screen? Sorry, I should have asked that earlier.
We have one of the supporting documents in the pack was entitled Accounts 2021. So if you can put that up. I don't know if you've got that.
Yep, I do. Accounts 2021, not the financial report.
Not the financial
Okay.
report yet. So people see that.
1 second.
Okay, so we're going back in time to 2021. This is a record of what we spent our money on over 2021. So you can scroll down this.
I'm just going to bring this closer for people on the call to hear you. Feel free to drive, yeah.
Oh, you're like a pilot. Right. Okay, so income and expenditure. So like I said, sorry? Right. You see, Right, so I just wanted to bring out a couple of the key numbers. So we had income of £9,451. Most of that was from donations, so thank you all to everyone in this room who's been donated, and it just really goes to show that with our party now, we do rely on our members and their generosity. We don't have sources of income from other places like unions or wealthy businessmen as much as other parties. Thank you all very much for that. What did we spend our money on? So you can see we spent £10,863, and the vast majority of that is on the campaigning that we do, so £9,548. So that was last year. So that campaign was the by-election in Crystal Palace and also the London GLA elections, and also a lot of expenditure in preparation for the local elections for this year. So in total, that meant we had a deficit over the year of 1,411, which is a slight improvement on the deficit in 2020, where obviously COVID happened and it was a particularly unusual year. So in terms of the balance sheet, then we basically have all our assets in cash in hand and at the bank. So the position dropped over the year from 15,102 to 13,690.57. So that was a healthy position at the start of this year. What's happened since then is we've spent probably around over half of that on the election in get our 5 councillors elected in May, and now we're working towards building our funds back up, as David mentioned, to be an ability to fight by-elections or general elections as they come up. We do have the benefit now of our 5 councillors who generously donate a portion of the pay that they receive for their council duties. So thank you all very much for that. And we project that over the next 12 months, that will go a long way to building ourselves back up to the funds that we want to have. Other thing I should mention is these accounts were approved by the exec earlier this year and presented to the Electoral Commission, as is required by law. I also have Martin Cooper, sat at the back there, has done an independent inspection of the accounts. His statement is here. He says, "I have inspected these accounts and the bank statements and can confirm they are a true record of all the transactions during 2021. That's all I wanted to say, really. But if anyone has any questions, happy to take them.
Can I just say a big thank you to Ian, because inspecting his accounts is very, very straightforward. When I was a treasurer, whenever I had to do mine, I had much more work to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen?
Sorry, yeah, no, it's probably a really dark question.
Yeah.
The bonding machine.
Yeah.
Why is that? So that's not in as an expense.
That is a typo where basically my spreadsheet didn't bring in the right number. So there was a cost of about £110 that isn't in that spreadsheet, has just come through as 0.
Oh, right, okay.
So, but well spotted. You keeping me on my toes.
We're not trying to.
Yes. Okay, and the other thing is we have 100 Club that we do each month. If you want to join the 100 Club, then please talk to me and I'll let you know how to do it.
You can't leave until you've joined them.
If you want to do it on the day, then please sign up here and give it £5 per entry. I've got 15 entries available, so don't be shy. But yeah, so if there's a pause on the proceedings, then please come up and enter before we have the draw at the end of the night. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you.
Thank you.
Need to run through these as well, do you?
We do,
We do.
yes.
Someone like to approve my accounts, please?
So we've got Chloe to propose. We've got Rick to second, thank you, in favour of approving the, well, I didn't even say anything yet. In favour of approving the accounts. And against, any abstentions? Well, unanimous, thank you, Ian, thank you very much. We now move on to other officers who are invited to make a report. Sandy, I know that you'd like to, as membership development officer. Would you like to come here so we can hear you on the microphone? Oh, yeah, this is good, very formal. I like this, yeah.
Probably I don't have to sit, do I?
If you
No,
want to.
because this is very short. I haven't really done a report, but I just wanted to let you know that at the moment we have 485 members, we have 153 supporters, and we only have 24 people at risk of leaving us, which is a very low figure. Anyway, the membership dropped severely in the last 3 years, obviously with Brexit and Jeremy Corbyn. Our membership was up around 1,000 at the time of the December 19 elections. So, but this is now completely leveled off. I'd say in the last year, people aren't leaving, not too many joining, but I think there's a turnaround at the moment. With that, we've had 7 people join in the last month, which is very good for us. And the other thing I think is that the people that are joining now want to be active because they really want to do something to get rid of the Tory government. So I can see that coming along. And I feel it's a very consolidated membership. The people that are with us now are with us because they really want to be with us and not just because of particular issues. So just briefly, you know, I think sort of going forward, we've got a really solid base. Let's remember that of that, around about 500 members, I think about 150 were involved volunteering
Slightly
in the
more.
local elections. So that's a massive proportion of the people that we've got that have signed up as Lib Dems are willing to sort of do something to help out. And we had a lovely thank you party that was brilliant at Lowners. And then we've also had a lovely barbecue this year. And we had Caroline Pigeon and Mark Pack come down to see us, which is sort of top-notch Lib Dem visitors. So that's good as well. And we have now, looking forward, we've got an Orpington quiz, a wine tasting, hopefully a Christmas party, which we're in the process of trying to sort out, and a big national dinner at the fundraising dinner at the National Liberal Club on February the 9th. There'll be some other stuff going on as well. So we've got lots of events happening, and hopefully ways to bring some money into the coffers. And so thank you for everyone for coming and to all the members who aren't here as well. So thank you.
I must say a special thank you to Sandy for all the work to welcome our members. I'm sure a lot of people in this room had their first contact with Bromley Liberal Democrats with a phone call from Sandy and inviting you to events that were coming up or campaigning activities, and helping people be active in the way that they want to be is so important. So thank you.
Can I just make an observation? I've encountered some of my friends. I've got some Tory friends and some Corbynista friends as well. And the Corbynistas were so impressed with our local councillors. They had dealings, I believe, with Julie about something. And they came to me and they were saying how impressed they were and how much better it was having the Democrat councillors rather than the Conservatives. The Tory friends of mine were real Thatcherites, and they were so disgusted by what had been going on within the Tory party that they said that from now on we're going to be voting with the Democrats. And one of them said, "Can you tell me when the next meeting is?" And what she wanted was to be able to talk about current affairs.
Yeah.
And I remember that when I was first a member, which was in 1982, I really missed that. I signed up with the Liberal Democrats. And I thought, I'm going to get really political now. And all I had to do was to go and collect jumble. And to do a bit of leafleting and fancy. But it took years before we had an opportunity to have current affairs talks, when we started the red line tendency. And we used to meet up after doing a delivery on a Sunday. And then we put the world to rights. And it was very encouraging that one was able to talk to people that you could disagree with about things that you agreed about. And I just wish that there was something like that we could offer to people who, as you say, are keen to be involved.
Good idea. I think we will bring back the Live Down Pint now that sort of COVID is completely calmed down.
Can be
Liberty
busy.
is-
Yeah, I do remember when we discussed this a long time ago, that I was told that a lot of women don't like going to pubs to meet up for things like that. They find the atmosphere in the pub not necessarily conducive. Maybe things have changed.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, they can also come to a Liberty as well, but we used to have a Liberty 1 month and a Live Down Pint the next month.
Yeah.
We're alternating, and I think we'll put that back in next year.
Yeah, I think that would be a jolly good idea.
Go to a cafe, sit on coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
A political discussion with someone a bit like that one item sketch. Fundraising as well.
If anyone has any good ideas for guests or speakers that could come and talk to us informally at a Liberty or a Lib Dem Pint, that would be great. But I guess they don't have to be Lib Dems, they could just be experts in any kind of field that we're interested in, be that, social justice or whatever. Sometimes we're scrabbling about running out of ideas, so if anyone's got an idea, please share it. And
There's so many things to talk about.
Yeah.
Sacred streets and environmental stuff and climate
Yeah.
governance and all that. Friends of.
We have a question online, and I'm going to turn you up as loud as my laptop goes before we fix this speaker issue. Suraj, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Brilliant. I just wanted to add, thank you so much, Sandy, and also Jill, for the amount of time you've both spent on the phones, phoning people to get them active, talking to the general public to ask them whether they're voting, and the amount of work that went into it, because quite often it was just a 2-woman band doing it, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And the amount of effort you put in really, really blew my mind. And I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of everyone. We can't thank you enough.
Yeah. So I can see that Bridget Fox is in the waiting room. I think given we are 15 minutes away from there, it would be unfair to make our guest wait. So I think we bring her in now and hear what about the PPC process. I'm going to turn you off on the spotlight, Suraj. And hello, Bridget.
Hello.
Hello, Bridget. Welcome to Bromley Liberal Democrats AGM. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. I was asked to come for 8 o'clock, so I'm a little early. I'll just lurk until you're ready for me.
Well, we're very flexible when it comes to timing, and because we did start 15 minutes late, but actually we've got a perfect window now. If you'd like to tell us a little bit about the PPC selection process and perhaps what people should be doing if that's something that they'd be interested in. So if you look at the user called Bromley Lib Dems, you can see that there's people in the room here. I'm Dave, I'm the chair, and also behind the camera you've got Ian, who's treasurer as well. So for a reminder for everyone, so Bridget is our returning officer for the prospective parliamentary candidates. So there is a process that Bridget will explain shortly that means that people are chosen to be representatives whenever the next general election might be. So Bridget, over to you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Can I just check first of all that you can hear me okay?
Yeah.
That's good. I'm not sure what I could do about it if you couldn't, so that's good news. So yes, as Dave said, my name's Bridget Fox. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a Lib Dem long-standing member and campaigner based in Islington, where I'm a former councillor and PPC. In fact, 10 years ago, I was a GLA candidate on the London-wide list. So I guess technically I've been a candidate in Bromley, although I think as a London-wide candidate, I didn't perhaps spend a huge amount of time in your parts. I was mostly north of the river. But these days, my role in the party is more of a backroom role. As my day job, I work for a charity and it's kind of a bit politically restricted. And one of the things I do is I'm a returning officer. I'm delighted to have been appointed by London Region to be your returning officer for choosing your parliamentary candidates. And of course, it's a very exciting time. As you know, for you in Bromley, you've had an extraordinary year with 5 councillors. We don't have any in Islington, so an extraordinary year in British politics. I've been, you know, let's just say my first candidacies were in the last century. You know, I'm not as young as your chair and your youthful council group, but I can't remember a year when we've had 3 prime ministers. So I think there was one year in the 70s there were 2 general elections, and my parents used to run elections out of their house. I got hooked at an early age, but nothing quite like the year we've had. But of course, we've had no general election as yet. Probably not going to have one this year now, but constitutionally, the current parliament runs out in December 2024. So we will have a general election in January 2025 at the latest, and almost certainly before then. So it is a good time to be getting your candidates in place so that they've got a good run up to a general election that could be sometime next year and certainly likely to be in 2024, if not before. There are party rules to follow, and it's my job to make sure they are followed. They're part of the constitution. So although we are a Liberal party, we are not, in the matter of candidate selections, a Libertarian party. And as anyone who's been involved in rules, whether it's in sports or the courts or whatever, sometimes the rules exist precisely to stop you doing what you would otherwise do if it were not for the rules. And so they can sometimes be a bit frustrating, but they are designed to get the right balance between having a process that's efficient for the local party, allows candidates to have a fair shot at making their pitch for your votes, and give members the time and opportunity you need to make an informed choice. I don't make the rules, I just uphold them. So if you find the rules are a pain, and in some ways they are, then, you know, there's a process to amend them through the federal conference, but they're the ones we have to live with for now. So it's my job to work with the local party executive, kind of as the servant of the executive, to agree a selection process and timetable which meets those rules, but also meets your local needs. And it's up to you to decide what those local needs are. I'm sure many of you will have been through selection processes before, but the rules did change during COVID, and some of those changes are still in place. For those of you who are sort of constitutional nerds, the rules are available in the members only area of the party website under selection rules. But the main change is that the selections now have to be an online process. They don't have to be wholly online. You can have a hybrid process with some in-person activities. It's no longer illegal for us to gather. But the core elements of the process, so notifications, hustings, any meets of candidate events, vote which are mandatory, voting, count and declaration will still be online. You can have additional events and campaigning which are offline, in person, but those core elements have to be online, or in the case of hustings, hybrid. And there is a document which your executive will become very familiar with, and which I keep by my bedside, called Appendix F to the selection rules, which sets out the modified rules for the online selection. And I'm happy to go into as much level of nerdy detail as you like, but just to say it will be mostly an online process, and that's not optional. That means, because it's a remote process, there isn't the case you all vote in person at the hustings, which is what many of us are used to traditionally. It is a slightly longer process, because once the last hustings has taken place, voting will open, but it's not on the night. That's when the ballot papers and the electronic voting invitations go out. And the party rules say that you have to allow 14 days for that vote to take place. So it's a slightly longer process than some of us have been used to. And I would say it's a much easier process for the local party to administer if everyone who has an email opts into receiving emails from the local Lib Dems for the duration of the selection process. It is illegal for the local party to email you, even if you have an email address, unless you have given them permission to do so. And so unless you all want to get involved in doing lots of costly paper mailings, I would urge you all to get signed up to emails. You can always opt out again after the selection process. But even if you're opted into London region or national emails, that doesn't necessarily opt you into the local party emails and vice versa. Lots of the process is specified in the rules. Basically, a vacancy is advertised. It's a bit like a job. Approved candidates apply. If you have too many, there will be a shortlisting process. But normally, all the candidates who apply get shortlisted. There's then a members mailing goes out. I say mailing, it's emailing mostly, with links to their campaign documents, and they can also come and campaign by calling you on you in person or by phone or putting paper through your door to a limit set by the local party. And then there will be at least one hustings, a meeting where members can ask questions, and after that there will be the voting. You can have additional hustings if you want, but that prolongs the timescale. So there's a trade-off between efficiency and participation. The absolute minimum time it can take is about 8 weeks. Typically it takes up to 12 weeks, so an average of 10 weeks for the process, and that's assuming there aren't things like Christmas or postal strikes or anything like that in the middle of it. So that gives you a feel for it, and it's up to your local authority, your local authority, sorry, you can tell what my day job is, your local party executive to decide when they want to blow the starting whistle. The only other things I can say is what you can all be doing now, which is firstly to renew and maintain your membership, because only paid up members can actually vote. And it's one of the main perks of membership is to actually choose your candidate. So why would you let that go now? Secondly, as I said, do opt into those local party emails and encourage others to do the same. If you've ever thought about being a candidate or even being a candidate to be a candidate and you're not on the approved list, then apply for candidate approval. Candidate approval is a bit like having your driving license. So it enables you then to go out and apply for individual candidacies, either here or elsewhere. I first got approved as a candidate because I was asked to apply to make up the numbers so they could select someone else in my local party. And I then went on to stand 5 times for Parliament, including once in a target seat. So, you know, being asked to go for approval, you never know what it may unlock for people. And consider it for yourself. We need to have a really diverse range of candidates to reflect the diversity of our party and the communities we want to support. And you can each play a role in considering standing for candidate approval yourself and encouraging others to do so. And then, of course, look out for the advertisement in due course and encourage people to apply. Because it's in all of our interest to have the best possible choice of candidates so that you can then make the best possible selection and continue to build on your amazing local success. So that's really all I have to say, but thank you for listening, and I will do my best to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Bridget. Oh, we've got some hands up already.
Yes, I mean, we're 3.5 constituencies here, aren't we? Are you the returning officer for all of them?
Did you catch that, Bridget, or should I?
No, I think, Dave, you might need to repeat the questions for me. Apologies.
Oh, that's no problem. It's our technical fault. So happy to. So we are, as it stands, 3 and a bit constituencies. Are you the returning officer for all of those, is the question.
My understanding is that the local party executive, or the previous executive, because of course you have a new executive after your AGM and they may wish to rethink this, has expressed a desire to select all the candidates at the same on a single process. Basically, your local party constitution will say whether the selectorate, the people who can vote, is the membership of the whole borough party for all 3, or whether residents in each constituency only can vote for the candidates there, and that will be in your local party constitution. That's one of the bits where you have to advise me, but whichever it is, there's nothing to stop you doing them on the same timescale. So advertising for all 3 at the same time, having the same closing date, so that you can then have the same timescales for any shortlisting, for members mailing, and so on. you may want to do, if you're doing in-person hustings, you may want to do them on separate nights in different venues. And similarly, even if the mandatory online hustings, it might make for a long evening if you have all three at once, but depending on the number of candidates you have, you might want to do that. You might want to quiz them as a panel on their suitability to be candidates in Bromley. And you might potentially have candidates who apply for more than one of the seats who will just want to be a candidate somewhere in your borough. So there are some choices there to make. But yes, I'm the returning officer for all three, unless you prolong the process indefinitely and sort of do one every 6 months, in which case I might have other calls on my time.
We don't plan on doing that at all. Thank you for answering that. And as for people who don't know, our selectorate rules are that it's the entire borough for those candidates. The main reason for maintaining that has been expressed as, well, if we're asking for volunteers to come and campaign anywhere in the borough, it seems only fair to let everyone in the borough choose the candidate. That's been our mindset.
If that's not already written into your local party constitution, you may wish to amend it to make that the case. But
it is, and even and
in which case you'd have to call an AGM or something. But that's beyond my. I'll work with what your rules are.
It's in the current one, and the one that we are proposing to be adopted this evening as the version of the model constitution as well. We have a question from Chloe.
Yes, nice to meet you, Bridget. My question is, if we have somebody that doesn't have email, digitally excluded, which is something we're all campaigning on as councillors, what's the process for them? Is there a paper process or something that we can put them in contact with you for? I know we've got a couple of members that don't have email.
I think your question was asking about what accommodation is for people who don't have email. Is that right?
That's right.
So yes, I use the shorthand offline members. It's not written in the rules, but and there are two categories of offline members. There are people who don't have email, and there are still some in this day and age. And then there are people who have email but haven't given the party permission to use it. The local, so for all intents and purposes, they don't have email. The latter category, I think, is very irritating. And as I say, if you could opt in for the duration of the selection, please do. But some people don't have email. And you know, it's a free country. You don't have to receive emails from the Lib Dems if you don't want to. So for them, the process is that they will get a written notification, a members mailing, which has a printed copy of the candidate manifestos, and instructions on how to apply for all the information they need to know about the hustings and when voting will close. And it makes sense, I have to say, for the local party to get all that hustings information, etc., sorted at the beginning. So only have to do one mailing to these people with all that information in it. And it will also invite them to apply for either a postal ballot paper, so they can vote in post and post it back, or an electronic voting code, which will be posted to them in the event they do have internet access. They just don't want to be emailed by the local party.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions?
I think the local party can choose to only make the candidate selection materials available online and can write to them with a web link for them to access that, and then invite people to get in touch if they actually need a hard copy, because the party as a whole is trying to reduce its carbon footprint. And so we are trying to make it as low a paper process as possible. But obviously, if there are a lot of people, and you'll know your local party better than me, who genuinely are not online, then you might want to make it easier for them to participate and proactively send them paper stuff rather than get them to request that. But that's among the choices that you have to make.
Another question from Peter.
I know there are a handful of people who have an email, but they share it with their partner. Are there any special rules in that case? So John and Mary Smith have an email which is JS Smith or something.
This is a question about shared email addresses. So cases where maybe two members share, or it's one member that's shared with a non-member. Is there anything that we need to do in particular in those cases?
Absolutely, and it's a real thing. My parents have a shared email at btinternet.com, and when a previous role where I made a membership officer in Islington, so I maintain our membership list, but in other roles where I've done it on a much larger scale for big organisations, there is a whole generation of couples who have a shared email address at btinternet.com. It's a thing. And if any of those of you familiar with Nation Builder will know that Nation Builder won't let two people share an email address on Nation Builder, even if they both said the local party could use it. So it's a real pain. Maybe things will be better with Fleet, the new system we're moving to. So yes, those people, I think, get one email and one written one, unless they want to give a second email address for the duration of selection, but they may not have a second email address. So yeah, that's one of the quirks we have to work with. You can't assume that they will share the email address for the purpose of the selection. Certainly not for voting.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions for Bridget? Can I echo Bridget's plea for you to go through the approval process? I can't tell you who the approved people are because I actually I'm not allowed to know who the approved people are, but I can tell you who was stood before. And this is a test. Chloe, you've stood before. I was your campaign manager. Yes. Julie, you've stood before several times. Sam Webber, he's definitely stood a few times. And Alan Tweddle, both as a parliamentary and as a London candidate, will have gone through the approval process. So if you want more information, I can definitely tell you that those people have gone through a recent-ish one. Please talk to them for more information. Likewise, if you have particular questions for returning officer, then I'm sure Bridget will be available to answer those.
Absolutely. My email is libdembridget@yahoo.co.uk. I'm very happy to have questions anytime, and I'm sure Dave can circulate those details to you. The formal bit of the process starts when I meet with the new executive, and go through some of those decisions we've got to take on the timescale and so on, and they make the necessary budgetary and logistical arrangements. So for most of you as members, the first of it you'll be aware of is perhaps if you get an email from the local party saying it's been advertised, the vacancy has been advertised, the vacancies have been advertised, and certainly when you get a mailing telling you that there's a short list of candidates you should start looking at and consider which you might choose. But there could be a bit of a lull before that happens. So if you have got any questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me.
Thank you so much, Bridget.
I'm also a mentor for candidates for the Campaign for Gender Balance. I particularly specialise in mentoring women candidates, and in fact, we can no longer have all women shortlists because we're no longer underrepresented in Parliament. We have good representation of women in our parliamentary party now. Sadly, not in Parliament as a whole, but the Campaign for Gender Balance is still encouraging women to come forward for selection, and there are other support networks for other underrepresented groups. So if you feel that's something of interest to you, again, please don't hesitate to get in touch.
Thank you, Bridget. On behalf of everyone here, thank you for all you're doing to help us with this important process, and it sets us up for great success next time round. So thank you.
Brilliant. Well, good luck with the rest of your AGM, and I look forward to meeting you in person.
Thank you. Look forward to becoming very familiar with Appendix F. So we can now move back to our schedule, and how are we looking? So we heard from Sandy. I alluded in my report that I would give Julie a chance to talk about what's going on in our council group. Julie, please, love to hear about the Fab Five activities. Would you like to sit? Or just,
that's fine. Can everybody hear me online as well as in the room, hopefully? So yes, as Dave said, it's almost 6 months to the day since we were elected. We've all of us, many of us were at the count, got fabulous memories of those very special days. More than 100 members came out to help us, which was moving beyond words. And it was very emotional. I'm well known as not being a hugger, but everybody got hugged to death that day. Yeah, it was fantastic to have so many people contributing. So what have we been doing in the last 6 months? It has been a bit of a roller coaster, but we are determined to do a good job for the hundreds of members who helped us, but also for the thousands of people who voted for us. and we want to continue the growth of the Lib Dems throughout the borough. The actual detail is we're on 27 committees between the 5 of us. That can be Sam on the standards committee that meets for about 5 minutes about twice a year, or all of us on full council where we have this pantomime we go through 6 times a year that goes on forever. Add to that, we've got requests for meetings from various stakeholders, residents associations, plus various ad hoc briefings, like we just had one from the public transport providers in the borough. So it is very busy, but we aren't complaining. I promise you, I'm not complaining. Various reasons for that. One, it is a privilege, and we all really feel that. Second, we are getting better. We were a bit at sea in the first couple of weeks. Third, as we've settled in, we've asked for help from members, and lots of members have volunteered. And that's been fantastic in lots of different ways, and it's just getting easier all the time. And fourth, and perhaps most importantly, we know that every time we do anything, it irritates the hell out of the Tories. They absolutely hate having us in the chamber. So that gives us all a great deal of joy. So in detail, what we've been doing, well, we were elected on some very key issues. We'd spent 2 years working out what those key issues were. They weren't, but they're always going to be Liberal issues, but they weren't necessarily the ones that we were most favour of. We did a lot of research into what actually worked in our different wards. And it's important that we're seen to deliver on those issues. And those issues included overdevelopment, safer roads, better transport infrastructure, clean air, active travel, in Bromley Town, particularly the issues around Waldo Road, and in Beckenham, particularly the issue of the loss of the train service to Blackfriars. And as many of you will know, we've had a bit of a win on that, thanks to the hard work. Now I've got to call a Chloe, not Chloe Jane. The service has been restored, which is a fantastic thing. And I think, oh, that's funny. 2 years of hard work, and she's got lots of recognition from Network Rail, who said she pestered them to death. But there have been other issues that have come in front of our desks since we were elected, and I thought I might give you a quick rundown on what those are. The biggest one is the cost of living. It's a big issue for so many people in the borough. Energy bills, cost of shopping, mortgage payments, rent, probably a massive increase in council tax next year, we're assuming. There are a lot of people who are very worried, and to be honest, there are a lot of people who are really frightened. You know, they can't see a way out of this. We need to do more. We've tried really hard. We're limited on what we can deliver, but we need to persuade the Tories that they need to do more and be seen to be doing more and actually do more rather than just talk about it. On the kind of smaller issues, but still important, digital exclusion is one of our big issues. There are significant groups of people who can't access the council's online services. They can't pay for their parking on Ringo. They can't report fly tipping on the app. And while we do support the move to digital services, they cannot be the only option, and that's what we're campaigning for. We're also looking at accessibility of services in the broader sense, and we're just about to put more publicity around our campaign for more public toilets. That's a big barrier to accessibility for a lot of people. Open democracy, this has always been something we've campaigned about in Bromley. And finally, it looks as though we might have some live streaming of meetings. There was a decision at council last week, but it's still only a trial and it's still at the discretion of the individual chairs. So it's a bit frustrating. But I think local people might just be a bit shocked at just how little their Tory councillors do. Either that or the Tory councillors might decide to do some more. So both ways, it's a win for the borough. So I think that's really good. Knife crime. Graham is here. Graham, he witnessed some knife activity in Orpington on Saturday. And we're really worried about the kind of normalisation of kids walking around with knives. In Bromley Town, the police presence has really increased. They've gone from 2 to 12, and we're having a fantastic relationship with those police. We virtually have to kind of send them an email and they're out like within seconds. They're really, really good, but it's meant that the rest of the borough has hardly got any coverage. And this is something we've really got to talk about, and we're going to be talking about that a lot over the next couple of months. And finally, the state of the high streets. That's something we've campaigned about forever. You know, dirty, poor repairs, dead trees. We got them to cut the trees down. Now we've got a load of ugly stumps left. It is a bit of a battle. There's no money. We can't do anything. But it is kind of the false economy. Who's going to come and fill the empty shops when the town centres look like they're derelict? And of course, in the middle of all of this, we've got zillions of bits of casework. And that does tend to be really small micro issues that really only affect individuals. And so a couple of examples, Sam's not actually made it here, but he got a post box reinstated that had been removed. It doesn't matter to a lot of people, but it matters to those people. Graham talked to the police and they're changing their shift pattern so that when the particular nightclub closes on a Friday or a Saturday night, they're not all having their coffee break. So that was a good one. Well done, Graham. Chloe persuaded Sainsbury's to keep their lift open until after closing time. I mean, it's just little things like this that make a difference to people. Will has been helping a family with really complicated housing problems who've got no digital access. That is such a problem to so many people. I got involved in a piece of casework where the top floors of the hill were being used for fairly unpleasant activities, and the people who overlooked the hill car park were having sleepless nights, and we think we've managed to get those top layers of the hill car park closed between midnight and 6 o'clock in the morning. So that's just a bit of an example. I just want to say thank you for all your support. It means a lot. We hope you're proud of what we're doing in the council chamber, and let's make sure we're more than double the size we are this time 4 years from now.
We have hands shooting up for people on the call. If you cannot hear, wave and I will relay the question.
I think you forgot to mention, Julie, you've all also been doing surgeries regularly.
Yeah.
That's been very impressive. And I think when you mentioned safer streets, you also included school streets.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah.
I lent my vote to the Labour Party in Fastow, as I'm sure lots of other people do. How is cooperation with the other parties going?
Yeah, that's a good question. We argue a lot about this between the five of us on just how chummy we should be with the Labour Party. I think generally with the two Plaistow councillors, Tony and Alyssa, we're working with them on a couple of joint issues. But we reminded every time we see them canvassing, which they've been doing recently in Copes Cove, that they're not our friends. And I think because they are human beings that we smile at, you know, queue for coffee with, you know, it's very easy to fall into that trick. We are their enemies in the same way that the Tories are their enemies. So cooperation, yes, but let's not let our guard down, I think.
Is there likely to be any unofficial arrangements about the general election?
No, I think that's absolutely not. No, it's extremely unlikely that that there's, I mean, in my opinion, I mean, obviously it's the national parties. Yeah, but I mean, it's the national parties that will make that decision, but I personally think it's extremely unlikely. And I think, you know, given the kind of anti-Tory pro-Labour feeling, that probably means that we'll struggle in the general election. So we have to think really carefully about our tactics.
But pretty much it'll be pragmatic. I mean, if we're just about to get over the line in Wimbledon, then all of you guys will be in Wimbledon. You're not going to be in Beckenham, you're not going to be in Bromley, you're not going to be in Orpington. You'll be in Wimbledon to get all Polo straight over the line. So we will be directed where to go. We are not going to be the target seat as it stands right now, based on the data and what we know. Obviously, politics is a bit changeable every month, it seems at the moment, so who knows in, you know, a year and a half's time, but I expect to be sent somewhere else.
But at the local council elections in Bromley constituency, Bob would have lost if everybody voted for independent, Labour or Liberal Democrats.
Yeah,
It would be such a shame to miss an opportunity like that.
I agree, but obviously we're looking at new boundaries, so that's a big factor. I think you know, it's not going to be something we decide overnight. We're going to have conversations for probably the best part of the next year about how best to tactically play this. And everything we do in a general election, even if we might be out canvassing in Wimbledon, every leaflet that we put through a door in Bromley will further aid our campaign for the next local government elections.
Which is important. I mean,
Very
you need to keep the
important, yeah.
momentum up even when the area is not
It
on.
also shows us where our volunteers are active. It shows us our data, where our data is. It's really, really important if we're there. So
Just on the note about, let's call it agreements, be they informal or formal. I've had 2 experiences of this, which were like just not very satisfying interactions. One was in Kelsey Needham Park by-election, and it was in the polling station. The partner of the Labour candidate turned to me and said, well, if you lot could stand down, that would have been great. And I said something along the lines of, well, these things are usually decided before the day. You know, that was at about 7 p.m. and the frustration, I think, was kicking in. So there wasn't reaching out from their side. The second was, no, this doesn't breach anyone's trust, that's okay, with the Green Party, where we just wanted to know where they might be targeting. And we had decided 2 years in advance, I believe, is our usual sort of system. And this was in January of this year, and they had not yet decided where their target wards were for the election 5 months later. So in some ways, there's a big gap between willingness to discuss and also the level of organisation that actually makes these agreements quite difficult.
Oh, I'm sure
I would just say though that with the Labour Party, the common feeling is if we would just step down, they could win a lot more seats, which they, you know, if they just don't get it. And B, because they came second, because in obviously parliamentary first past the post, they're more likely to come second. That doesn't mean that they're the best contenders, because we know, especially in Bromley, that the soft Tory vote will never switch to Labour, but they will probably consider switching to Lib Dem. So that's why they don't get, you know, why we're not going to step down and why they're not going to win even if we did. So that's a big discussion. Everybody's welcome to join in. In fact, the next 12 months we'll be talking about this, I think.
Stephen.
Sorry for 3 things on that subject. The first is the boundary changes made from, as I understand, looking at them today, made from a lot more Tory. The other thing to say is that when there have been, so in a nearby constituency, there was an agreement and understanding between local Labour and local Lib Dems, and more than half of Labour's activists ignored the agreement and campaign. So I mean, I absolutely share your frustration that there isn't some form of progressive alliance, but it's actually almost impossible to apply on the ground. That's the truth of it, progressively.
There's been a lot of most of you probably listen to the Rest of Politics podcast, but there's obviously been a lot of chatter in about tactical voting and sort of saying, well, basically social media and the websites and the people collectively decide. It's not actually down to parties anymore. People do it, you know, people are running the data on that and looking at the science behind that. So it's probably out of all of our controls anyway. The people will make that decision who they feel is more likely and back that horse.
I think Carol's got a question.
Thanks, Carol.
Yeah, I'm just questioning the numbers of police, because after I run the Bromley gang crime campaign, very successful campaign in 2019, the police numbers were increased to 22, and there was one dedicated inspector. So has the numbers gone down?
No, it's just Bromley Town Centre, which basically is just the high street, and the bit behind it has 12, and the others are spread across the borough. And we're all in touch with the Beacon.
Across the the ward?
No, across the borough.
Is it 22?
What you mean in Bromley town or Bromley ward? Okay. We know that there's a separate team. We've only really engaged with the Bromley town team. We've had a tour. We met the inspector several times, and we know there's 12 of them. We're meeting the outside of the town centre team next Sunday. I don't know how many are in that team. I'll happily report back, but I know that there's a couple of PCSOs. Well, yeah.
It seems that there's less than there was in.
Yeah. I don't think we've got an issue in Bromley. I think in general in Bromley we've had a fantastic response to every time there's been an incident, but it's Beckenham and Orpington that seem to be, yeah, that seems to be really struggling.
35 yesterday.
Yeah, we saw that
yesterday because of some intelligence that was between two schools.
Yeah, but again, that was just Bromley town centre,
Yeah,
whereas Graham's incident was Orpington. I know Chloe's got real concerns about the coverage in Beckenham.
Well, there's no coverage in Beckenham. It's the largest nighttime economy in the borough. No police on Friday. They're all in Bromley.
Based on night in Bromley Road.
It wasn't actually, it was
That's on the board.
right. Okay. We do get a lot of reports from residents about incidents, and we tend to message the police immediately. And invariably, we tend to find there's a degree of Chinese whispers, but they're really on the ball in Bromley town. But they do have really good coverage. As I said, it is
It's a special project.
yeah, exactly.
To target an area, opposed to the borough,
But
they have a special.
Beckenham and Orpington is something that we really need to focus on as an issue. And there's a public protection committee meeting, I think, in about 10 days, and we'll be taking questions along to that. Sorry, Andrews.
Bromley Council has just been saying, oh, we're doing really, really well. We're starting to prosecute unlawful development. Well, surely that's nothing to be proud of. They should have been doing that. That means because of the Labour and.
No, planning is non-political, and that's made clear all the way through that when we go on the planning committees, it's very apolitical. Obviously, politics does come in, but generally a lot of this prosecution is decided in the planning department and the officers, and it only comes to the committees that we're on if it's either called in, which some of them are, or if it's a big or significant enough development that it thinks that it should come to the committees. But in general, planning, like several council departments, is really backed up. They can't make any of their statutory deadlines at the moment. So it's a real problem there. But in terms of the increased number of enforcements, I would think that the majority of those have been officer started rather than through the committees.
I think there's an element of them shouting out about them when they get one, because everyone knows that they're ineffectual and completely don't have a backed up and don't have any staff. So when they do finally do, when they're
We've got time, I think, for one more question, because we may have another report. Oh, yeah, thank you. If there's no more questions, thank you, Julie.
Oh, David.
Okay, so picking up on the discussion about cooperation between parties, it doesn't sound likely to happen. But how would it, would it be a decision between an executive of one local party and another, say, to field a joint candidate, if it was something that happened? How would it happen?
So the joint and actual not standing would require the exec to agree it, but also the region, and I believe the English party as well. So it's quite hierarchical. However, we're not going to campaign there very much, or maybe at all, type informal, not strict, I guess. That is more readily available, but wouldn't be carried out in like some fly-by-night type situation. It would be discussed at executive. But yeah, not standing has strict oversight. Thank you,
Okay,
thank you, Julie. Thank you for everyone for your questions as well. I could now invite any other, well, first of all, I believe we have about half an hour left. So I invite, and in that time, we will take further reports. We have the constitutional matter, and then we have the selection of the next exec.
Gavin Williamson is resigning.
Yeah, Gavin Williamson's. I just told you we have lots to do. Thank you for the update, Chloe. Thank you. Suraj, I believe you'd like to make an update from a diversity, as a diversity representative, and I'm just going to turn you up and spotlight you on this Zoom.
I'm really self-conscious at the moment because I have a massive zit on my head, so I'm just like, oh. Just a very quick update to the membership more than anything else, because at the July executive meeting, we approved our diversity statement, which is readily available on the website. Some background on that is that London Region, as a requirement for us to even start the parliamentary process of getting approved candidates, we need to ensure that we have a diversity statement and plan in place. So I've been working with London Region and the National Party in creating that. So there's Nicole at HQ who is in charge of diversity and inclusion. So she had an oversight over this. And in this report, that our aim is predominantly to make all our meetings accessible. So that's even if there aren't members who use wheelchairs, we must always ensure that we have sites which people who can access, and also from a age perspective as well, making sure that's an environment which lets younger members who are under the age of 18 be included, because previously, for example, exec meetings would be held in a pub, which isn't appropriate. So just letting you all know that the diversity statement is available online, and there is a plan in it which I will be working with a London Region on implementing and ensuring that as a party, we become more diverse, more representative of all the members in the borough, and strengthen ourselves and have more voices.
Thank you, Suraj. Are there any questions for Suraj about the diversity report and the plan? Thank you. Oh, you got a question from Stephen.
Because I very much enjoyed that diversity training thing that we had up. That was really excellent. So well done to whoever put that together, whoever made that happen.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to take you off the spotlight, and I'm going to unplug my monitor briefly because I want to read some notes that I've written on this. Wow, we should have done that rehearsal, shouldn't we? So we move now to the changes to the local party constitution. I'm going to give a very quick overview of why we're doing this, and Ian will kick me and correct me if I get something wrong in this. So the Liberal Democrats in England, based on some changes made in the federal party, found it necessary to make a new model constitution to account for those changes, and also some changes in the electoral law that have been made since the last one published. And we were sent a copy of this model constitution to look at within our executive and to make proposed amendments for it to then be agreed at the AGM. If this AGM were to, for whatever reason, stop right now, this the default model would come into force by default. I already said that, but yeah, that's the word. That's what default means. Yes, default would come into force. And what we've done as an executive, and I must give my great thanks to Ian Catchpole and Mike Jones for leading on the adaptation of the model constitution to suit what we want in Bromley, which much of which is about having a selectorate for our parliamentary candidates to be the entire borough. Copies are available. They've been handed out by Graham. Thank you, Graham. And online, people who have the supplementary information page that will be available on there as well. There's one other piece of information that I think might be handy, which is that the new constitution talks about a long-term development plan. So this is a plan that covers the election aspirations, how to get there with training, fundraising, membership, and diversity. And this is not something that we have in place right now. The constitution is not yet in force, so we don't need one, but this is something that the next executive committee will be tasked with. We do have some guidance available from the state party, and every time we have an AGM, until this constitution doesn't exist anymore and there's no mention of a long-term development plan, which could be never, there will be an update in the AGM about the progress against that long-term development plan. I hope that's some useful background about why we're doing this. We have, as I said, we've got paper copies. Are there any questions in the room? Ian, have I missed something important from this explanation?
I think you've covered pretty much everything. I guess we'll just reiterate that we put through as an exec what we believe best represents the best of the model constitution, while still retaining the elements that we think are important for the local borough party.
And what's represented on the paper and online is the changes to our current constitution to bring it up to the level of the new model constitution. Yeah, Andrew.
Dave, can I ask a question? I presume the red is what is being added in,
That's right.
and everything scrolled through is being got rid of.
That's right.
So why is everything in relationship to the duties and roles of the officers outstored and not in there?
So they are in a appendix in the constitution. That is not particularly helpful that I've not included that in this printout. So that is available in our supporting information. So we propose no changes to that appendix, I should say. If that's of interest, I can quickly display this.
Can I just ask, is the appendix a model appendix or our own?
It's the model appendix, which is available in the model constitution that we linked to in the supporting documents.
So standard for all regional.
For the individual ones?
So yes, the appendix LP1, the roles of the local party officers, covers chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer, membership development officer, elections officer, which actually we've referred to as that is a difference to we've referred to as a elections and campaigns officer, and diversity champion. They are covered in that appendix LP1. Are there any?
Where were the constituents direct then?
So they are not. No, sorry, they are not officers of the exec. They are members of the exec. The officer descriptions just cover the elected officers. Is there anything else Ian, that you think we should mention?
I think that covers the main for.
Section 3.1, B1. Have you put it in there because you're hoping that we're going to rejoin the EU?
So I'm.
I mean, it's fairly, we went on with this thing.
That is.
It's
Aspirational.
playing the long game, perhaps. I hope that the fact that there's reference to other elected public authorities and other public office means that we can be assured that it covers the right set of parliaments, let's call it, as well as one that we're not currently able to elect people to. Defer to you, Ian, about whether we think that should be something we correct.
We could correct it, but I think it's, yeah, as there's not going to be any election that we're eligible to vote for the European Parliament. I think it's an academic point. You could look at it, tighten it up, maybe.
Maybe it's trying to standards market define.
9.3, if I understand it rightly. But then to get one of my local government candidates for the electoral area, then you have a general meeting in which only the people in that electoral area can vote. So it doesn't have to say what. And in practice, it's only been scrabbling around by the executive, trying to get anybody to do it. Come the future, maybe there'll be files people.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's when it is necessary is the important bit there.
Okay, so but the intention was that whereas rightly we're choosing the whole borough, going to the whole borough to choose the parliamentary candidate, we're only going to the ward to choose the local candidate.
Well, we say electoral area.
Electoral area.
It would be quite tricky though to have the whole borough vote on every single candidate and every single.
Well, it's only,
Yeah.
it's only,
Yeah.
I have seen that with former days. And it's not going to work as a ward because given how many people turn up,
Yeah.
there's going to be 3 of them.
I think that the exec will take a decision at the time to come up with
Well, and
a constitution that is appropriate for that election.
I think what we tried to do is keep to the model constitution as much as possible, so that London region had few possible reasons for rejecting it. Yeah.
and prior text was clear.
So on this issue, do we wish to have an amendment, or is this something that we don't want to we want to keep as is?
I would propose to delete who are resident in the electoral area. Then it reads that all members concerned, all members may vote.
Yes.
Which is, and you've already, the local party shall attend all members of the local party may vote.
Yeah, I think that can make sense, but I think you would.
Okay, so there's a proposed amendment to 9.3 to delete the words who are resident in the electoral area concerned.
Yeah.
This would have the effect of allowing all Bromley Liberal Democrat members to vote on any ward candidate, local election candidates.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's
what we have done all those years ago. Because if we campaign in everybody in all of the districts, it's wrong to be expecting people to work and not to have had a bit of involvement in the selection.
And from a practical perspective, some boards can do it.
Yes. Great. Okay, so we've had that proposed by Peter,
Seconded by Martin.
seconded by Martin. Those in favour of this change? Let's just ask for those against. And those abstaining. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Feels that's in the spirit of how we want to run our parliamentary selections. So it's nice to have some consistency.
You want to just read out the words that are been deleted?
Yes, I crossed it out so vigorously, but who are residents in the electoral area concerned?
Thank you.
And that's in 9.3. Thank you, Andy, for recording that. And by the way, is a process where we have to get this to London Region and they put it in a vault or something. I don't know. Any more comments about the Constitution? Any more amendments, proposed amendments? If not, shall we move to accept this as amended by the amendment? Proposing, thank you, Stephen. Seconding, thank you, Rick. Those in favour of adopting this amended Constitution? Those against? Those abstaining? That's one abstention. Thank you, Andy. Other one.
Sorry.
No. Sorry, there was one abstention. There's one abstention. No, that's Liberal Democrats. There's clues in the name. Thank you, and thank you again to Ian, to Mike, and to the exec for going through this process. This has been easier than it has been in some prior occasions. Very So it is time for me to get out the way in two ways and make sure that we can elect our officers and members of the executive committee for next year. Over to Alan, our returning officer, for this.
Okay, thank you, Dean. I've been seen and heard by everybody down here.
You can, and you'll be on camera there as well. Oh, sorry, let's
So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a full slate of officers and other posts to fill. We've got one contested election we're going to have to night by secret ballot, and that's for chair. So I propose that we've got to take that first because it's important. Is it your wish that we have 3 minutes from the two candidates so they can put their point of view to you? Okay.
Yeah.
Looking by the nod of heads, have we got time to do that, Chair?
we do.
Yeah, okay, I'll toss a coin. Carol, would you like to call heads or tails? It is heads. Would you like to go first with your presentation or second? Okay, right. So
If you'd like to come to the front, Carol, great.
Right, so I'm Caroline Denyer. Most of you know me from stalls or from previous executive meetings or the last AGM. I've had a very checkered career. I've originally worked in investment banking, then teaching social work, and very recently did medicinal chemistry masters. So I've got quite a broad interest, and so how I see myself as being chair is my vision is twofold. is to establish the things that need to be put in place to keep the local party functioning at a ubiquitous, healthy and productive level. And to inform and liaise with the executive, or obviously I'm going to be part of the executive then, with a view to re-establish the governance structures that would constitutionally oversee the healthy functioning of community activism, campaigning and canvassing at both a constituency and ward level. My vision is to engage the electorate throughout the borough by creating active constituency and ward groups, which will develop over time, to foster sustained membership growth. I have been quite active in membership recruitment over the past 6 months to a year. To be in constant state of preparedness to win by-elections, to develop a party, a local party, as a strong political force for the next general election, recognising the probable need to focus on one constituency with the aim of electing one MP. To deliver in 2026, at the very least, a Lib Dem balance of power on the council, and an expectation that the Bromley executive becomes more of a governance body to seamlessly facilitate the devolution of activities throughout the borough. And this will include really kind of strategic communication.
Thank you very much. Will we bring the other candidate up on the screen, please? Yes.
Spotlight for everyone. Is Surge visible? And I'll just turn volume up and place this like so. Let's just try a sound check, Surge.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Brilliant. Oh, that's great. So I have. Am I okay to start?
Yes.
Yes. So I've had the privilege of being on the exec for the last year as a diversity officer, and in my role as chair, I want to continue promoting that, and that would be by liaising with London Region and the other chairs within London Region to gain ideas from all their experience, because as we know, we are all one big Liberal unit, and to work together with other boroughs and gain knowledge and ideas from that, to me, that's really important. Also, I am still a young Liberal, and I want to really focus on building out the future for our party by working with the young Liberal newly elected chair, Nicholas Orford-Williams, as well as Ulysses Abbott, who is based in Greenwich, to kind of like help build a team of young Liberals within Bromley and the southeast of London, so we're able to have a future and attract new young people. I also want to work with our councillors and improve the diversity by linking in with religious communities and different groups and so that we're able to have more voices from different backgrounds, so we're able to hear their stories, because as a party, as shown in our diversity statement, we all have Liberal values. However, as a party, we are not representative of our borough, and to improve our voice and to be more inclusive, we need to link in with those communities. And I believe there's a real hunger within our council group and also within our membership to do so. And most importantly, I really value this party and the voice it provides. The preamble to the Constitution states that the Liberal Democrats exist to build a safeguard, a fair and free and open society, with to seek balance with fundamental values of liberty, equality, and community, and in which no one shall be enslaved by poverty, ignorance, and conformity. Currently, we don't have that in this country, and the Tory government is taking away our rights with different methods, whether it be via voter ID or disenfranchising those who are most vulnerable. I believe we as a party need to fight that. And I believe that as chair, if I were to be chair, I would work as hard as I can to ensure that we continue to represent that. Thank you.
Right, so you've heard from both candidates now, so I propose that we move to the votes. I've got voting slips here, and we've gone to great expense to get the slips. But it is still, so I'll distribute the slips along. It's a preference vote, so you've got first and second preference. And when you finish voting, if you put it in there, then I will go and run it through the software as we're meant to do, and come up with an answer. Okay. Just to because time is short, that there are no other contested posts for tonight, so I'll read out those who've been proposed and seconded.
Can I ask a silly question?
Yes.
So preference vote, you put one next to the person you want, and two then
That's it, Sandy, yeah.
Well, you don't.
Yeah, we've got a third candidate on here.
Yeah, we'll just vote for one.
You're here.
I've got emails and they're going to the party.
Yeah, we'll just,
There's a lot of money now. So you definitely exchange. Yes. No, that's because they're getting yeah,
Just going to put you on mute on the chat while there's so much hubbub. Sorry for not doing that earlier. This must be an annoying level of hubbub. unmuting you now as the hubbub is coming to a close. Yes, maybe we can read off each other's. No, no, it's, yeah. No, oh, yeah. Thank you. Order. Right. It's a bit late, isn't it? Thank you, everyone. So while Alan is running the numbers, Alan's asked the rest of the contests are not contests. And well, Ian's going to read the first one because otherwise it would be a bit strange.
Right, okay, so the vice chair is Dave Marshall.
And, treasurer is Ian Catchpole. Secretary Mike Jones sadly can't be here today, but thank you, Mike. Elections and Campaigns Officer Steve Solid. Membership Development Officer, very official, Sandra Stern. Diversity chat. This is this may change given the election, but Alan, help. What should I do? To be confirmed. We then move on to our constituency reps for Lewisham, West, and Penge. Andrew Coleman. For Beckenham, we have Geeta. Hang on, you get a spotlight. There we go. Or maybe that doesn't work. Oh, hang on.
Hello, I'm unmuting myself. Sorry.
Right. You get a little spotlight. Great. Okay. And for Bromley and Chislehurst, Stephen Gosling.
Yeah.
Constituency rep for Orpington, Rick. And there are two ordinary members positions, and they are filled by Alan Tweddle and Gail Hilda. Thank you very much.
There's no honorary president.
No, but while we're talking about there's no honorary president, and I believe that although the Constitution lists sorry, I'm just
There may be, so we don't have to do that. We have someone.
I'm just checking our about youth. So there was a question about youth officers and the Constitution does list a representative of the party's youth and student organization, but this has not been on the form used by the returning officer. It'd be good for Alan to confirm this, but I believe what will happen is that we'll leave this as currently as a vacant post and address that as quickly as possible as we can after apologies for that oversight, and I think that is mine. There's one typo that I think Lisa has been renamed Gina, which is not right.
Computer's talking on mute.
Oh. Oh, it's been, why can I not ask to unmute? Oh, yeah, that is the right thing to do. Yes, otherwise you could just listen in to people at home, couldn't we? Yes. Okay. So, sorry, Geeta, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I didn't want to say anything in particular. Sorry that I couldn't be with you this evening, that's all.
Thanks for your honesty. Please don't be offended when I put you back on mute now.
I still have some gaps in the 100 club draw if anyone.
How much is it today?
£5 a ticket.
For one
£5 for one.
Oh, there's a queue here for the 100 club. 3 people signing up, fundraising time. Oh, good evening, Sam. Sorry for not seeing you earlier on. And good evening, everyone.
I've forgotten a donations bucket. I don't know whether you want to have a donation bag here.
I wonder if, as part of the 100 Club, I wonder if Ian might have a suitable container for fundraising. He might have, I know there's an egg box. Maybe a plastic bag is better than an egg box. Oh, there's a folder. There's a folder if you'd like. Or would you like it to be not transparent?
Well, it would be transparent. Not big enough, okay. We'll have both.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Thank you. How are you? I put you on mute because of the hubbub. I'm very hubbub conscious now. And, to give you a bit of a feeling about what's going on here, it's very warm. This radiator is on, and there's still a lot of people in the room. So in some ways, I'm very envious of you being at home.
I mean, I'm in Aberdeen right now, and I've been hit by vertical rain for the last 3 days. So
you're in Aberdeen, right?
Yes.
What's the weather like?
Not above 10 and wet. I got to see seals though, like on a beach, which was lovely.
Of independent reviewer of the accounts. I believe Martin Cooper. Martin, you said you're happy to be the independent reviewer of the accounts. Sorry. Yeah. No pressure. So unless there's anybody else interested, then I'll take Martin as appointed. Thank you very much, Martin.
Thank you, Martin. It's a massive reassurance knowing, well, we know Ian does a good job, but someone checking up on him is excellent. And thank you, it's massively appreciated.
You won't forget that £110. Well done. Right, we have a result, ladies and gentlemen, and Siraj will be the chair for 2023. Thank you to both candidates for their good presentations. We look forward to smoothly operating exec in 2023 and further progress for the party. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Alan, for running these processes and in a way that is impartial, and we know it's done right. So thank you. It's so important. So that this brings an end to the formal proceedings. There's any other business, and I will just grab it, to be honest, because I need to say thank you to everyone on the previous exec, and thank you to those that are on it again, and also thank you to those that are standing down. And there are some people who are standing down after a long time on there, but I know that they will not be strangers to the local party, and also the Constitution does allow us to, as an exec, give people what's called additional single responsibilities, and I'm no doubt that some of these people may be involved in that. So after some years of being on the exec, I need to say thank you to Peter, I need to say thank you to Stephen, and I need to say thank you to Chloe. And it feels very strange to be having an exec that doesn't have those people on there, but as I said, I know you will not be strangers, and I need to say thank you for all the work you've done over the previous years. And Suraj has his hand up, so I'm going to. You're already unmuted.
I just unmuted myself. Sorry.
No, that's okay. You're the boss.
Well, we're a democracy, so everyone has a voice. I think we should also thank Dave, who has been a wonderful chair for the last 3 years and has led our party forward and has made it extremely successful. From going from 0 councillors in 2014 to having 5 again, and for dealing with multiple situations in such a professional and level-headed manner. It honestly, I have big shoes to fill, and I look forward to working with you as vice chair and taking advantage of all your knowledge and understanding. So I think we should also thank you to Dave.
Perhaps an action should be noted to appoint a new equality and diversity. So,
Yeah, now that.
Yes.
You are absolutely right, and
sorry if I can.
and so we will address those 2 vacancies as quickly as we can. And thank you. I'll make a note of that. You'll notice in the new constitution they're referred to as a diversity champion. A small change there. Thank you. Stephen, I believe you may have a piece of any other business from or your traditional role.
This is the most important item on board. We are the people, part of the people, the party that make it all happen. But we also need money. And you'll see, I'm now running with my board, opening to that door, so no one leaves this room before they fill the Tesco bag of penalty for the little Democrats, or if it's a note, £50, we'll put it into this wallet here. So if you think of the amount that you want to give, double it when you put it in. If you've got no money with you today or not enough, just put your hand into your neighbour's pocket. Reach their hand there. And you know,
Those online can click on donate on the website.
and of course, yeah, you can donate on the website online. So
So Steve.
let's get things rolling, shall we? Try and pass the bag around the room.
I think that's okay. I think that's okay.
Yeah. You need to get one of those.
Do you want to do the honors?
That's kind. So we're going to draw the 100 Club. Do you want a live webcam? Why not? Okay.
Okay, so we have 44 entries, so this is the first prize of £55.
So it's number 29.
Number 29 is David Wilson. Yeah.
So that stays out now.
Yes. Okay, now,
Let's have someone else.
okay. Stephen, second prize, number £33 goes. 39, it's Julie Island. So Julie, do you want to do the third and final, which is £22? Number 46.
Oh, it's recent.
46 is Sam Webber. Yeah, so thank you very much everyone for entrance.
Just so we can hand around the list of people who are here with their email address. Oh, you saw this.
I'm just going to make a note of everyone on the call as well.
Happy for my opinions to go into Stephen's bag.
Okay, yeah, I'll take care of that.
Okay, that's everyone noted down on the call as well.
Awesome.
If there's no further business, draw the meeting to a close. Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone online, and look forward to seeing you in person very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Well chaired. Well done.
Thank you. Sir. Look forward to seeing you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.